Scott Brown here. In today's exciting episode, we are reviewing the Milwaukee framing nailer. So nail guns have been changing quite a lot over the last few years. For years here in New Zealand we used pass load, which was a combination of battery and gas cartridges. Now over the last few years we've been trying these battery ones. So we started with the Hikoki framing nailer. That's battery with like a compressed air chamber in the top here. This is similar to the Hikoki in that it's battery, but I think it's got nitrogen in the top. Maybe wrong about that. Maybe comment below if you know more than me. It's extremely likely. So we're getting more power out of these battery ones and we're not worrying about gas cartridges. And the bonus of a battery is that we've got these anyway for our other battery tools. These nail guns are fitting a lot nicer into our tool kit overall. So the Hikoki gun was my go-to. And to be honest, it still is my go-to. And they're not country miles apart from one another. They're pretty damn close. Just a few minor things that I prefer with the Hikoki. So let's start with the positives. What I really like about this gun, the power. I would say it might have a bit more power than the Hikoki. This isn't a scientific review, I don't know the actual facts with this stuff. But it feels like it has a bit more punch to it. But it's still very, very close. It's not different enough to worry about. The other thing I like about it is that Milwaukee made it. Milwaukee make a lot of tools, so if you're on a Milwaukee battery system, this is a bit of a no-brainer for you. I also like the depth adjustment. It's not complicated at all, it's just turn that in and turn that out. Also the tip on this I actually prefer over the Hikoki. It has a bit more of a claw to it, it's a bit wider, so when you're putting it on an angle it doesn't slip as much. Another great benefit of the Milwaukee, and maybe the other ones do it but I'm not sure, is you can extend the magazine, so you can add more strips of nails and you don't have to change them as much. Now the areas where the nail guns do compare is two key areas. Number one, that belt hook there. If you're a builder you'll probably see the problem already. That magazine is in the way of that hook. So when you try and hook it onto your tool belt, I mean I've dropped it off a ladder before, it doesn't go directly in. For comparison, there we go, see that? Freedom! That hooks nicely on your tool belt. So Hikoki do that right. They don't have a rafter hook that comes automatically with the nail gun. You can buy a rafter hook and put it on the other side, whereas Milwaukee, they include the rafter hook on the other side like that. This rafter hook's great, that's not so great. And the second thing that makes me choose the Hikoki over the Milwaukee is the weight. This is a bit lighter and it seems to be balanced better. I better give one of these to Pato, he's trying to nail some studs.
There it is.
There you go, mate. So the depth adjustment on the Hikoki is kind of similar as well, but you can see that smaller nozzle at the top. That's why I prefer the Milwaukee nozzle. We slip a little bit more often when we're nailing on a 45-degree angle with the Hikoki. But other than that, they're very comparable. Oh, another key thing. The Milwaukee has longer standby time. So what I mean by that is once you've turned this on, this will only stay on for a few minutes. The Milwaukee stays on for longer. So more often than not, we have to turn this thing back on every time we go to nail. Oh yeah, and this might be a little bit trivial, but when we put the nail gun down, this one stays up. Whereas with the Milwaukee, you put it down, no matter how hard you try and put it down, no matter how carefully you put it down, no matter how well you try and balance it, it tends to fall over. What do you think of the Milwaukee framing gun, Pato?
I like it, bro. It's
good.
Yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, you're a fan?
It's pretty powerful.
Yep.
It's a little bit annoying, this hook. That's about it.
Yep.
Bit of weight to it.
Yep.
It's good for Rich because he's got plenty of these batteries.
That brings me on to my next point. Battery systems. Ultimately, yeah, I mean you can probably tell by the review, ultimately the guns are pretty much the same. And I'm sure as they work on the next generations, and they're only going to get better. What it comes down to is your battery system. If you have to spend, thousands of dollars on your tools, you probably want to stick with one battery system. So if you're already on Milwaukee, I would suggest getting a Milwaukee framing gun. and maybe you're on Hikoki, then get the Hikoki framing gun. I'm trying to make my drop saw and my framing guns all one battery system, so that's why I have this Milwaukee drop saw out here. So for me, that's like an ideal system, having a drop saw and the framing gun all taking the same batteries, and having multiple batteries. One cool thing is where they put the battery button here. That's a bit better. It's not in there like the Hikoki. I think if they put that on the next generation, that would be a good idea. The extension is all framed up. So why do we stick with these battery guns, you may ask? Certainly if you're in New Zealand, there's a good chance that you don't use this framing gun. You might use this framing gun, the Passload framing gun. This is the gun that I used for maybe 10 years. The only reason I didn't use it from the start of my apprenticeship is because I had one for 4 years as an apprentice and then it got stolen. And then I had that one ever since, until fairly recently when I got this one. And then this one appeared as well, the airbow. So why do I not continue to use the Passload? Well, basically it's a strength thing, and this. Gas cartridges. As soon as you buy a box of nails that has gas cartridges in it, you pay, I have to double check, but it's probably an extra $50 for the box of nails. Much cheaper to buy collated nails without a gas cartridge. To power this, you don't need gas cartridges, you just need the battery, like I said earlier in the video. The Hikoki's exactly the same. And the airbow, well, you don't need a battery, you don't need a gas cartridge, you don't need anything except for a large air compressor that you have to take to site every time you need to fill this tank up with compressed air. And you may be able to tell that I have not been using it, because this is the air compressor. This is the air compressor here. So the airbow story is a bit of an unfortunate story. They decided to pack up and stop making nail guns. They're still making the nail gun technology though. And last I heard, they were in talks to license the technology. I don't know much more than that, but I do know that they stopped making guns. This is a concrete gun for concrete nails. No gunpowder, no, just air. So the inconvenience of the airbow and the air compressor that you need to take around with you was the reason I stopped using that. The reason I stopped using the Passload was the gas cartridge and a lack of strength. So here are a few pieces of timber that we're likely to use here in New Zealand. The middle stuff is pine, pink timber. You'll probably see it in some of my videos, and if you're wondering what the pink is, it is treatment. It's basically the lowest grade of treatment, and it's color-coded pink, so the inspector knows that it's pink and not green stuff, which is more treated. Anyway, occasionally, very occasionally, I've only done it once in this video, in a recent episode, is LVL timber, laminated veneer lumber, layers of glue and pine, usually, and it forms quite a strong timber and notoriously hard to nail into. This is Remu. This is a native timber here in New Zealand, quite tough to nail into. So, up first, the pink pine. Milwaukee. No problem. And the Hikoki. Oh, we got a flashing battery. So the Passload has a lot less power. But generally speaking, it gets through the pine oak. But generally speaking, the pine is not a problem for the Passload. It gets through it. Laminated veneer lumber on the other hand. Milwaukee. No problems. Oh no. The battery. I've only got one battery for the Hikoki, and it's currently flat. The rest are at the job. Trust me when I say that the Hikoki shoots about as good as the Milwaukee. It shoots into the LVL and it also shoots into the native timber. So now, the Passload into LVL. That's a depth set all the way in. Now, a very important thing to mention, and I should have mentioned it at the start of this comparison, this isn't the latest Passload gun. Like I said, I've had this for many years. The new ones probably have more power, From what I've heard, they still struggle with things like LVL. So take this with a big grain of salt. But let's test it with some native timber for a laugh. No, not too bad. Look at that, go on Pesload. Now the Milwaukee. See the difference in the recoil? So I must have had an old soft piece of Remo, not the hardwood, because that Pesload did the job. Usually it really struggles. Like I said, my review isn't very scientific. That battery is running a bit flat there. It's an older model of Pesload. And my Hikoki battery went flat. But you get the idea. There's a bit more strength in those battery only nail guns that the gas ones don't really compare with. The Pesload is far more comfortable, far easier in the hand, and I think that's why they're still a favorite here in New Zealand. Yeah, so light. And another thing that I don't miss about using the gas nail guns, like this one, is the maintenance. Between the gas and the natural wood dust on a standard work site, there's a lot of residue that builds up inside the motor. So far, and I've only had this 6 months, so far this has been okay. The guys at Hikoki in particular said that they go a long time without needing to service it, and they're completely serviceable. I can't speak for the Milwaukee, I don't know enough yet, and that's the difficult thing about reviewing tools, is that you know a tool's good after years, not months. So it's almost like a first impressions video, because yeah, it takes a good few years for a tool to really show itself and show how good it is. If you buy this in New Zealand, there's a good chance you'll get one of these boxes with it. That's what I got. And inside the box, it comes with a little rubber tip, and that clips over the nozzle, so it's like a no-mar tip. If you're nailing into something that you don't want extra dents in, you clip that on the end there. Look at that. If anyone from Milwaukee is listening, keep doing that. That's a great idea. Free no-mar tip inside the box. So who should buy a Milwaukee framing gun? Well, if you're a builder like me, I would recommend it if you are on Milwaukee tools. If you have Milwaukee impact drivers, circular saws and all the rest of it, and you just want one battery, great nail gun. If you want to buy a nail gun purely just for the nail gun, you don't mind what system it's on, what battery it uses, then my preference is the Hikoki for the reasons I said before. But in terms of a few months of usage, they're pretty comparable.